Hey, happy Thursday, everybody. Let me turn up my mic a little bit. Um, First, just some updates on my life, exciting things that are going on this week, and then I do have a specific topic today to talk about that I think will be fun, at least interesting, regarding astrology. So, quick little updates. One, I got this altar set up. Like I said, I was rearranging my room earlier this week. My altar used to be in the corner of my room. It's hard to get to. Now it's like front and center. It's right there, and I'm able to organize it better. And I just appreciate it a little better, and that's super exciting for me. Everything that I have on there is meaningful to me and excites me and reminds me of the beauty going on in my life. Reminds me to stay connected to beauty and to um, keep a thread of spirituality going through my daily life. So that's awesome. My girlfriend today also got me a set of runes as a congratulations on officially like submitting my new music, which I had been struggling to get out just for a long time. So as a gift for getting that done, she got me a really nice rune set that I'm very excited about. Um, yeah, and so I got a lot of stuff going on right now. Got lessons going on, got print shop going on, so I'm working a lot, but also staying creative. And life is colorful amidst the craziness that's going on out in the world. So here we are. I want to talk about astrology. I know this is a topic that a lot of people care a lot about, and a lot of people care nothing about. Um, and then within those two camps, there's people that care about it in a kind of a fun way, and then care about it in a serious way. And then in the people that don't care about it, some people are just like ambivalent towards it, but some people are like, that is stupid. Like, why would anybody give astrology credence at all? What a waste of time. How silly. Blah, blah, blah. So, the reason I want to talk about this was because a post was made yesterday on Facebook and then was responded to, and I don't need to like go through names or anything. I'm just gonna go through the points that were made. And I thought it'd be useful for me to reflect on those points that were made. Astrology is still a fairly new like interest in my life. I do not claim to know that much about it. Um, but I've been learning a lot, and I'm very intrigued by it, and I've seen it have merit in my life at the very least. So I do not think it's meaningless whatsoever. Um, I guess before getting into the points, let me talk about my experience with it. I've always known I was a Leo. I had a friend I met maybe like 5 years ago, and she was the first person that was like, what's your sign?" And I had to like reach back. I was like, I think I'm a Leo. I think maybe one time I figured that out a long time ago, but she's like, "Yeah, you're a Leo according to your birthday," and here's actually like what all that means. And she had a book, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. That actually like as a sun sign describes some things about my personality. I was like, that makes sense. Kind of in the same way that with other personality tests and stuff, a lot of times you can be like, oh yeah, like I think that got me figured out. The difference with astrology and other personality tests is with those tests, you usually take a quiz and they take all your answers and they're like, you're this. Astrology is just like, when were you born? You're this. That's definitely a fundamental difference. So it's, of course, natural to look at it with a lot of skepticism, and you should. Because anything that claims that it can tell you something about yourself based simply on when and where you were born, like is making a big claim, for sure, for sure, and that's suggesting a lot of things all at once, and I'm excited to dive into that. So anyways, sun sign. It wasn't until sun sign is Leo. It wasn't until years later that I learned there's more than a sun sign. You also have a moon sign and a rising sign. My moon sign is Virgo, and my rising sign is Cancer. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That adds a little more color. You know, reading through the descriptions of the different signs and stuff, what their strengths are and what their shadows are and weaknesses, and I was like, but I can also see those in my personality as well. Um, then come to find later on that like you have a sign for every planet, and essentially anything that is has a position in our sky, it can be placed in one of these 12 signs. So one time I was joking with my friends about like what's your ISIS sign, like what's your International Space Station's sign, like where, you know, and you could actually calculate what sign the International Space Station was positioned in at the time of your birth and its relation to your birthplace, and you could have a meaning for that, essentially, if you wanted to. Okay. But no, so you know, I learned there's so much more to this, and I was like, that's cool, this is funny, blah blah blah. But then like one time I had a friend who does astrology, like seriously, like he's studied up, he understands all its workings. It's a very mathematical thing. It's not easy to understand, especially to the level this guy does. And he just had me show him my birth chart. So it's like this complex looking like circle thing. It has all the signs around it, and then it has the planetary positions for you. And he looked at that and was able to make a whole bunch of like inferences about my life. And he was like, you know, are you this? Are you this? Is this what this might be what you've been experiencing in your love life? Does this life ever feel really easy to you, almost as if you lived it before? Like very oddly specific things where I was like, okay, yeah, like, okay. And this was the first time he'd ever met me, also. So he was making all of these inferences based simply on my natal chart. And so that grabbed me even more. Then I started interacting with astrology within the tarot, which is another topic that'd be fun to talk about. But all the tarot cards have associations with different signs, and so as someone who is really intrigued by tarot and trying to learn about its history and all its meanings, I took it upon myself to learn more about the signs. And so it's like you can categorize the signs into what elements they are, and there's like cardinal, muted, and fixed signs within those elements. And so it was a way for me to contemplate elements and how they express themselves in different personalities. So I started asking friends like, okay, what sign are you? And then I could see in which way, like I have a friend who's a Cancer, and we contemplated the ways in which she feels like she shows up as water in her life. How does she relate to being a water sign as opposed to being fire or air or earth? And the more I do this with people, at least on the elemental aspect, oh, you're an earth sign? Oh, okay, I could see why you're an earth sign. You're a fire sign. I could see that. It's just interesting to me that almost always checks out. I haven't really had a time where like, nah, it doesn't really make any sense that you're that. And even the times where it doesn't make sense, like you can find that person has a moon sign or a rising sign that explains how that part of their personality has been balanced out in a certain way. There's a lot of nuance. It's not just 12. It's not just saying there's 12 different types of people. Definitely not. If there's like 9 planets plus a rising sign, that's 10 different positions. So like 10 different positions, 12 different signs. So it's like for the sun you have 12 options, but then for the moon you have 12 options. So you get a 12 times 12 times 12 times 12 times 12, 12 to the 10th power, I guess, if I'm getting this right. Like I said, I'm not an expert. But like that's a lot of different combinations of personalities. That is a lot more nuanced than just here's 12 different ways a person can be. Okay. Now again, still none of this is assigned based on like questions that you fill out. They're just like here's where and when you were born. Here's your chart. So again, what am I thinking that this implies about astrology? Or about the way that we are. What it implies is that the relationships, the cosmic relationships between the earth and everything in our solar system, the poles of those gravities does affect us. I come into the world and the moon is a certain place and the sun is a certain place in the sky, and so the earth has this gravity towards this and towards this and towards all these other planets. There is a specific structure of the planets relative to the earth, relative to the position of the earth as well at the time you were born. There's nothing false about that. There is a specific structure made up of many, many different relationships of all the planets when you were born. You can't argue against that. You can't argue against essentially geometry. Okay? So the claim is that that structure does affect you. That's what astrology is claiming. And then it's claiming that we can observe that effect. That through pattern recognition, through many, many years, through a long-standing tradition of pattern recognition, we can make inferences about those structures. What's all going into those structures as well? Layers of symbolism. These planets have meant things to humans throughout all of our civilizations. You have Mars as a god, Venus as a god, Sun as a god, Mercury as a god, all with their own characteristics and aspects. Symbolically, mythologically, we have beliefs about these things. Okay? And so you could say we made them up, or you could say we observed them. You could say, what's the difference? In a way. A lot of quantum physics asks that right now. What's the difference between the observations we make and the questions that we ask? There is absolutely a relationship between our minds and the exterior world. A lot of modern day philosophers will tell you that, and physicists will tell you that. Okay, so not only is there a structure, at all times, but at the time you were born, not only is there a structure, but that structure is made up of things that have also been made into symbols that mean things to us, that have a history of meaning. That's really important to keep in mind as well, okay? Especially if you believe that we connect in any collective way. Is there a collective consciousness that blankets all of our minds, or connects subtly all of our human minds, and does that reach back to the beginnings of our history? If so, it's not crazy to suggest that we are affected by these meanings, whether we are aware of our signs or not, that we're affected by the structure we are born into. Okay, so those are my thoughts on astrology. That's why I would give it any credence, because I believe in geometry and symbols. Okay. Yes, there's a malleability to symbols, a debatable malleability to symbols. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm going to read through this post and give you some thoughts. The point that was made in the post said it was mocking the idea astrology is fake, because a lot of people say that. And then the post says, so is capital. Credit, interest, stocks, it's all widgets, imaginary constructs we assign arbitrary value to. Money is pieces of paper with squiggles on it. We could all decide it doesn't exist tomorrow, but you'd rather lick boots than think of stars. Well, that's where it gets a little, snarky, of course, which I would like to just subtract from the point. Excuse me. You'd rather lick boots than think of stars is obviously, you can see that there's some other motivations behind this post as well. And we don't need to consider that right now. We can look at the inner point that says, if astrology is fake, you must also admit that interest, stocks, and like money, credit, all of this stuff is fake as well, in the way that we assign value to it. We assign arbitrary value to it. I think this is a really interesting point. I think it's worth considering. I would also, instead of responding to astrology as fake by saying so is capital, I wouldn't start by that, because then I'm like making an admittance. I'm saying astrology is fake, which I think I would want to attack first. Like, is it? And so instead of saying like so is this, I'd be like, astrology is as real as capital is. But I'm going to say off the bat that like it's more real in a way, because it's observing something that already existed. It's taking something that already existed and then looking for patterns, and then asking, can we make inferences on our lives and our futures and our relationships using that. Capital didn't already exist. We created it as a placeholder value to in my mind to evolve out of bartering and make bartering more efficient. It's just an energy exchange. Money is an energy exchange, but the currency is an energy exchange. Money is like one expression of currency that we have come up with. Energy exchange is real too. So okay, I'm going to start off by saying astrology and capital are both real for slightly different reasons, but they're both useful to us. Okay. This person replies to this post and says, honestly, this is pretty silly. Money, credit, interest, and stocks have a functional purpose. Astrology is purely entertainment. Money is more like language. Yes, it only has meaning because we all agree that it does, but that agreement and common usage serves a purpose. The same cannot be said for astrology. It doesn't matter whether we all agree about astrology. You can certainly argue about the merits of the financial systems we have built, but the concept of money has been pretty successful in terms of moving civilization forward. So much to break down here. Astrology is purely entertainment. It's just like definitely not true. Just ask people that make their living off of astrology. Like, it's clearly more than entertainment. Stocks have a functional purpose. Okay, yeah, for some people, not for people that don't participate in it. Astrology has a functional purpose as well, and that it does study the relationships of the planets in our sky, and it asks the question, are we connected to those? It sounds pretty functional as well. It also asks, can we learn more about ourselves, and can we learn more about the relationships around us, and even asks, can we make predictions about what this season of life is going to bring to us as individuals or collectively. Those are definitely functional. If there is any credence to astrology, if it is based on anything real, then absolutely is functional. He says, the same cannot be said for astrology. It doesn't matter whether we all agree about astrology. It does matter. If we all had different ideas about what a Leo sun means for a person, and different ideas about what a Virgo moon meant for somebody, then astrology would be chaos, and we wouldn't enjoy it. It would just be like, it would be like, I think this sign sucks. I think these signs are awesome. you said that this means that, but I disagree. It actually means that. It's like, no, we have agreed upon way of talking through our signs. And the fact that we agree upon it and that it's rooted in long-standing tradition is very, very important to its functionality. But the concept of money has been pretty successful in terms of moving civilization forward. I guess, like I said, it made bartering more efficient, but it has its own problems as well. So, I guess just the coming off with the point of astrology is purely entertainment and um, doesn't have common usage, doesn't matter whether it's agreed upon, is just kind of silly. And asking and assuming that it hasn't moved civilization forward at all is also very, 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 very silly. Um, or it's and just it's unrooted. They're unrooted points. Then later he made another point that said, let me be clear, astrology is nonsense, but I think it's harmless nonsense, so I don't care if people use it to entertain themselves. People get entertainment from sorting themselves into Hogwarts houses, and they aren't real either. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't acknowledge that it is fiction. Okay, again, like, it's not really fiction. Like, even if it's just symbols, like, you wouldn't say that the Big Dipper is fiction. You would call it what it is. So you would say, like, oh, it's a collection of stars that people found a pattern in. It's an easily recognizable collection of stars. It's not literally a spoon in the sky. Does that mean the Big Dipper as a constellation is fiction? No, clearly. He says people get entertainment from sorting themselves into Hogwarts houses. Yeah, well, so we can even look at that as having value. It is real in that people have real associations with those houses. It's like for now, instead of like, we'll look at any personality test. They divide types of people into a certain number of people. Hogwarts houses do it into 4. People find a house that they relate to, and that's helpful. So like the association that's happening, like the symbols, and even things like in that come from fictional worlds, we still have a real relationship to. So like that is more than entertainment. Like it can be helpful. It's a tool for relating to other people. Oh, you're a Gryffindor, I'm a Gryffindor too, I relate to that because of this, like that's useful. We can talk about our similarities and our differences. um he said, I don't care if people use it to entertain themselves. I don't know. I don't use it to entertain myself. I use it genuinely to like learn about myself. And if at any point I didn't think that it had been helping me, I would discard it. And I think that it could, if it was false, I think it would be harmful. Because I think it could be harmful if people gave too much. Sorry, my phone won't stop. I don't know how to. There we go. Okay. I think it could be harmless if people like used it to like make all their decisions or like make all their relationship decisions, or saw one sign as hurting them in the past, so decided to like never interact with that sign again or something like that. It can be helpful and it can be harmful. It's not nonsense. It's a real thing that it's a real thing that we created. Um, and it does have so many parallels to the things that he was talking about. Just saying that money has a purpose. It's a connect. Money is a connecting device. It helps us connect our senses of value to each other. It is a symbol, and so astrology is the application of symbols onto the geometry of space and to the relationships and patterns that we see form in those structures in relation to us. And that's really not so different. So anyways, there's a lot of holes in this person's argument. Those are my beginning beliefs on it. Also, it is clear to me through conversation that he has here that he hasn't he doesn't really know much about astrology, hasn't really done much research on its history, probably doesn't know his own signs. And so let me just say, like, if you're gonna come and just trash an idea or a philosophy, that you should probably know a little bit more about it and not make sweeping generalities as calling it pure entertainment when you actually don't understand how people have been interacting with it. Um, are there entertainment aspects to it? Sure. Astrology memes are fun, but like that's just a small, fun expression, like an easily transmittable online expression of a thing that is very big. It has a lot of effect on the human psyche. There are a lot of people that are learning more and more about astrology and using it as a tool to come to better understandings of themselves and their relationships to others. So um, those are my thoughts there. I hope that came across clearly enough. And I I just want to say I've had a lot of fun exploring it in my life. I think that if you don't know your signs, you could start there and say, what's my sun sign? What's my moon sign? What's my rising? There are plenty of free apps that do this. I like CoStar. CoStar is cool. There's one called Horus that like has a very in-depth natal chart it'll make for you. All you need to know is where you were born and at what day and time you were born, and you can have your whole natal chart created for free. So yeah, I would encourage you to learn more about it yourself, and I'd encourage you to not trash it because I think there's more there than you probably realize. All right, signing out for the day. Talk to you later.